there was so much talk coming in the playoffs this year about it being wild card in the first couple of rounds because you had 2 drafting tracks with Atlanta now in there, and you had 2 road courses with Watkins Glen also being in the first round, adding to Talladega and the Roval. Was this somewhat to be expected that we might see some non-playoff drivers winning because of the way the schedule laid out?
I think this is the new world of NASCAR. I think the schedule is some of it. The car is some of it. I think the equality of teams front to back in the garage is some of it. Now, I'm not going to say they're all the exact same. That would be a lie. I still think Hendrick and Gibbs and Penske probably lead others 23-11, nipping on their heels. But, I mean, it's not just playoffs. I mean, look at the number of teams. I think we've had like 18 different winners this year. You know, it has become, you know, like every good bowl of soup, the ingredient, it's not one ingredient that's the star, it's this mix. And I think that's where people get lost in this. I could go to, you know, the crazy word in NASCAR today, the charter or the business model, I think has done a lot of this. It has, from when I took over in television in 2015, when I moved to the booth, to now, I just give it the eye test. And 5 laps into a run, 10 laps, 20 laps, 30 laps, first to 30th is closer than it's ever been at every track we go to. Just the cars are closer together, which tells me that they're all running similar speeds. I think the business has something to do with that. The car, having the opportunity to buy the same parts. Once again, I don't believe they're all the same. There are cars faster than others. You know, Kyle Larson doesn't lead 461 laps at Bristol if everybody's driving IROC cars. That's not what happens. So I believe the car has something to do with it. And then the talent. I think the world, as we see in other sports with more international players playing in the U.S., right? I think the world itself has a bigger reach. And I think you have a better kind of deeper field of race car drivers. And then throw that schedule in. And I do believe if we ran mile and a halfs every week, we wouldn't have this same variety of winners. But I do think because of the variety of schedule and everything else I already listed, this is what you're going to have, which is great for the fan. And it's more stressful for the playoffs guys because now, you know, very few of those golden tickets have been handed out.
Yeah, and I'm glad you delved into this because this was on my list, talking about, I don't know if parity is the right word for it, but the last 9 races have been won by 9 different teams. That's the longest streak since 10 straight over the 2001-2002 season. So we're seeing the type of, I guess, spread of victories here that we haven't seen in almost a generation. In the last 9 races, there have been 9 different winners. And 9 drivers this season have broken winless streaks of at least 42 races. So you kind of talked about it there a little bit, Steve. It sounds like it's a confluence of things, but can a lot of it be chalked up to the next gen and the fact that teams seem to be a little bit more closer in terms of what they have access to in terms of equipment?
So I don't like the word parity. I like the word opportunity. And I think that's really what we're seeing. I don't think that NASCAR has delivered such restrictive setups and such restrictive cars that everybody runs the same speed no matter what you do. Because if that's the case, you should talk to Legacy Motor Club that are letting people go and rearranging and firing people, or talk to the Wood brothers who are, you know, changing. Even though their driver won a race, they're making a driver change next year. And Stuart Haas is shutting down. It's easy to talk parity or opportunity if you want to talk the front of the field. But let's talk the middle or the back of the field. To say it's parity and it's only the car is a slap in the face of Spire Motorsports, who has ground and fought tooth and nail both on and off the racetrack. That's the part everyone misses. You know, what Spire has done off the racetrack by bringing in Gainbridge and partners and financing and buying buildings and hiring people, they just don't start running inside the top 10 because, the car allowed it. It's like, this is a human sport. It always will be. I love the technology. I grew up in the technology. I think the technology should be shared and celebrated and shown to the world because it's way higher technology than people think. We're not driving stock cars out of the showroom in 1965 anymore, and that's okay. We could lean into what's different about them. But the humans make the difference. The people always will. And I think what you see isn't parity, it's opportunity. And I think that we are starting to see teams that are starting to realize that. There's this, I think there was a little bit of a dip for personnel. And now, even with SHR shutting down, which is crazy to say that there's this big influx of people on the market, I think teams are internally looking around going, well, I can improve position A with player B. So I'm going to go get him from another race team. And we're going to start trying to figure out who knows how to put the Lego blocks together better. Because while the car is a bit like a set of Legos, it doesn't come with instructions. And I think that's what everybody forgets, right? Like all the pieces are there, but your statue and mine are going to look very different, Nate, because we don't know how to put them together. And I think that's the same way for these teams. Now, it's harder for the fan because the differences went from inches to, thousandths of an inch. And the wins on the racetrack have gone from seconds to hundredths of a second. And I think those equate to one another. And look out the window, it's amazing. I mean, it's spectacular. What we saw at Talladega was a level of display of driver talent that I think should be celebrated.
Hi, I'm Parker Kligerman. For more access like this from Pit Road, be sure to click and subscribe to the Motorsports on NBC YouTube channel.